This is Football Primetime. I'm your host, Bill Dean. I'm, of course, here with my co-host, Andrew Dean. We're brought to you by Primetime Radio, courtesy of Sam Wu, who is he's doing a podcast right now for the Devils. So, good on him. I definitely wouldn't do anything for the Devils. They stink. But we're brought to you courtesy of Mr. Wu himself. I'm behind the controls today. And, AJ, let's get to this. Congratulations. A married man, tying the knot. Young Abigail, very lucky to have you. Great addition to the family. I thought my speech was tremendous, and that was the real highlight of the wedding. That's just the way the Deans roll. They're boisterous and obviously well informed and can just really, they know how to talk. So, congrats, and everybody loves you. And everybody on Facebook, thanks for the well wishes. I know there are people that reached out saying congrats to AJ. So I'll let him have the floor and thank everybody and let you know how married life is after, 3 days? Yeah, 3 days of married life. No, 4 days.
Almost a week.
Oh, shit. Yeah, Friday. Yeah, almost. Yeah, it's flown. All right, fine. 6 days. 5 days.
It's been a quick week. It's been a lot of fun. We went down to AC for 3 or 4 days, just kind of relaxed and stuff like that. It feels really no different than what we've been doing currently, but just more official, I will say. In our relationship and everything like that. So, no, it's been awesome.
That's all it is.
It was a fun Friday.
All it is a name change.
Yeah, it was a fun Friday. We've been kind of just making sure all the forms that we've had to get in, are in, the marriage certificates, all that fun stuff. So it's back to reality now and football.
Yeah. All right. So this past week was, maybe it's just me. I didn't think this was a great week for football. I felt like the games were kind of meh. I mean, I don't know if you agree with me on that one, but you're watching the games and, from the Thursday night where, sorry, now I'm blanking on what was on Thursdays, but, sorry. Yeah, Steelers-Browns, which was, I kind of even forgot it was playing. I know we had a rehearsal dinner, so that kind of might have helped that. But, Cleveland Browns, come out with a 29-17 win. The game was okay. Jacoby Brissett, 220 yards passing, was the leader. Nick Chubb is the best running back in football at this moment. Amari Cooper, a good game, another touchdown. But it was kind of meh. Especially when Pittsburgh's defense doesn't have that edge like it normally does. I think T.J. Watt missing obviously is a tremendous blow for that team. And that kind of started off the week where you're like, oh, okay. Houston and Chicago, that was an awful game. Tennessee gets a max win over Vegas, who not looking good, Las Vegas Raiders.
Surprised.
Case. No, yeah, I mean, I had them as last in the division. They're 0-3 right now, and they're hurting. They're hurting real bad.
Yep.
But that Indy win over the Chiefs, where it's 20-17, is a defensive slugfest. You expect offense with Matt Ryan and Patrick Mahomes and Jonathan Taylor and Michael Pittman, and you look on the other side, Travis Kelce, and all these names, and it was a dud. And then the biggest game of the week, where everyone's like, it's going to be 60-plus points. Miami and Buffalo, it's 40 points total.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. And Buffalo blows it at the end. McKenzie not getting out of bounds. Time runs out. You have the offensive coordinator, Dorsey, just slamming his iPad, breaking it. It wasn't even an iPad, sorry. Microsoft Surface. Which, you got to think of it from Microsoft's perspective. You have to be kind of upset that they're just racking, between him and Tom Brady, they're just ruining tablets all over the place and not giving them the sturdy.
I don't know. I feel like that's free publicity, right? If it stays intact, right, the screen doesn't break, right? It's like, look at us.
I guess they're not showing they're not showing the After Effects. Yeah.
Yeah, we can withstand coaches and players slamming our tablets on the ground, and they still work perfect.
Yeah, we can withstand a Tom Brady,
Gronk spike,
bullet pass. Yeah, Gronk spike. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
that's a good one. But yeah, I mean, football, and you just keep going through the slates, and Cincinnati blows away the Jets. We'll get to that one.
Yep.
Baltimore, New England was actually maybe one of the more exciting games when you think about New England. Mac Jones goes out, but he throws for 321 yards, and then his high ankle sprain where it looked like he died on the field.
Yeah.
Um, Lamar Jackson is the best player in the NFL at this present moment.
Crazy.
He's pulling an Aaron Judge, and he's going to get paid. Um, you know, Minnesota pulls out a win over Detroit, who just keeps biting kneecaps. And I mean, is Philly are the Philadelphia Eagles the best football team in the league,
I mean,
top to bottom?
I I still think it's Buffalo. I still think Buffalo is the best team, but I
Okay,
mean the
even with the
Eagles,
injuries.
even with the injuries, I still think they're the best team. I just think
Okay,
when it comes down to it, I would rather have Josh Allen, and
yeah,
I'd rather have Josh Allen over Jalen Hurts. And oh, I just think they're a better team. The little stumble. They should have won that game against the Dolphins. The Eagles.
yeah,
They're what 3 games that they've played. Lions. You expect that to be a win. You expect that to be a
yeah,
win against the Commanders. The Vikings. Yeah, they kind of blew them out, right? So I think
yeah.
they've had 2 easier
They
matchups.
blew out Washington
Not
too.
yeah, yeah. So I think they've
Yeah,
had 2 easier matchups though. The Bills, on the other hand, playing a very tough Dolphins team. The Rams, I know that they're having some issues here and there, right? They didn't have the great opening week, against them, but I still think the Rams at the end of the day will be a NFC contender, in the playoffs and stuff like that. And the Titans, I mean, they blew the Titans out of the water, and the Titans last year and the years before, right, have been really well. So I still give the edge to Buffalo, but I mean, I think Philly is right there. It's like 1A, 1B right now.
yeah. I would agree, and I think that Buffalo obviously very talented, but they're missing Micah Hyde, who's out with a neck injury. You're missing a couple corners, including All Pro White. Um, on the opposite side, on offense, Gabe Davis returning from injury. The running backs played a little better, but you can see that Josh Allen cannot do this himself. He needs
No,
help, and they're
yep,
relying on him to basically lead them to every single win, and that's not gonna last long. And you see it against a good team like Miami, and we'll get into the two quarterbacks in Tua and Jalen Hurts in a minute because I have a point that I want to make. But you know, Buffalo, they need to work around Josh a lot more than Josh needs to work around them. And you could see that
yeah,
in the title game last year where he was all world, and obviously you give Patrick Mahomes 14 seconds. What was it, 14 seconds? And
something
he
like that.
gets the
Yeah,
win, which is crazy. But they need to do more around him. And I know Stephon Diggs is he had a pedestrian game, but Miami knew exactly what they were going to do. They were going to make it so they couldn't throw deep, and they were going to challenge them underneath, and they were able to get stops. And they kind of
yeah,
showed you what you need to do against Buffalo to get some wins. But here's my point on the two quarterbacks for Tua and Jalen Hurts. Did we not give these guys enough credit in the offseason and kind of their development? Because they're sticking it up everybody's hoops right now. And Tua is a very accurate quarterback. I think the big knock on him is he's basically Tom Brady already, where he's a statue. I mean that in the
yeah,
the mobility state, not
yeah,
obviously um, passing and stuff and being Tom Brady, but Tua is extremely accurate. You give him a weapon like Tyreek Hill, and that's going to help anybody. But he's making Jalen Waddle, who in his own right is a fantastic receiver, but he's supporting two top 10 wide receivers, and he's making all the right plays. I mean, the concussion and stuff, which turns into a back injury,
yeah.
which is just absolute bullshit, and Miami should get
Which
fined / dock
I
the
would say,
pick. I really do think that.
did they ever figure out yet, or have they concluded that
Yeah,
investigation? I
I
haven't
didn't.
seen anything because it was something that
Uh,
like he was in the concussion protocol that I saw, but then they ruled that it was actually his back or his neck that was the issue, not his head. But like you look at that and
Yeah,
you see
it was so
clearly
bad.
he is not in like he's out of it. You can't say that contributes that's contributed to a neck injury or back
Yeah,
injury. Like the way you're
the NFL said
so
they have every indication that the concussion protocol was followed with Tua Tagovailoa. I mean, his excuse where it was his back and that's why he couldn't walk and he stumbled. He was concussed. I don't care what anybody says, and to not to kind of belabor the fact that they let him in halftime and he had he
yeah.
barely missed anything is nuts. And
Also,
Miami really should be punished for that, but they're not gonna.
I say my big question is that really Miami or is that because
No,
isn't there an independent person there that's supposed
yeah,
to diagnose concussions and all that stuff? So
yeah,
I mean,
true,
yeah,
yeah,
part of it's on the player, right, to say that yeah, they're having these symptoms or they're feeling
and
the way
they're
they're
not gonna say
feeling.
that.
But yeah, exactly. And as a competitor ourselves, right? We always wanted to stay in and play games whenever we
Yeah,
were injured. So get that, but I just I don't get how any doctor, after seeing just him come off the field like that, it just doesn't make sense to me. But
it was bad.
if everything was followed correctly, I guess
I mean,
we're wrong and our eyes deceived us. But uh, I mean, we'll see if there's any like lingering effects this coming week or in the weeks ahead because those things have a tendency to not really show signs and symptoms until a few days later and stuff like that. So who knows?
yeah, he could definitely have some issues later on. Concussions do not go away if that's really what it is, and that's it's pretty obvious that that's what it was. I'd like to see a doctor come and tell me otherwise, but um, so that's obviously the Tua, but Jalen Hurts, and looking back at it, his whole career has kind of been something where he's kind of risen up to meet challenges and exceed them. And this goes all the way back to Bama, where Tua comes in. And also, I saw this stat, which maybe, hopefully, this is not the trivia question you're going to have, but there were three undefeated teams as of like Monday afternoon before the Giants obviously then lost to
Uh-huh.
the Cowboys. And those three undefeated teams were Miami, which Tua was on Bama. You had Jalen Hurts, who also a Bama quarterback, and then Brian Dable, the Giants, who was calling plays for those guys, I
For
believe,
them,
at Bama. So all three of them were, Bama tie-ins. Um, but Jalen Hurts, right? So at Bama, he's the starter. He, leading them to the national championship. Tua comes in. He has that bad game. Tua comes in and is the savior, and then he starts. Then the next season, Tua gets hurt, I believe, in the was it the NFC or not NFC, but it was Tua got hurt in the lead up to the championship game. Jalen Hurts comes in, wins. Obviously, Tua then still comes starter, leads them to the championship, and Jalen Hurts then leaves for Oklahoma. At Oklahoma, he has a very good year, is able to bring this team to to relevance, and he finally gets drafted, second round pick. No one really thinks much of it. Everyone's kind of been, oh, hey, Jalen Hurts is kind of a stopgap until we get a real quarterback.
yeah,
And all he's done is win and be productive. And maybe, I mean, I'll admit, I think I'm wrong on this kid. You know, 4 touchdowns. He has 3 on the run. Um, he's he's a very good player, and I'm kind of surprised that I didn't really see this. And his big thing is throughout the next say 5-6 games, he has to really work on being a pocket passer more. And I think sky's the limit.
yeah,
This kid is that good. So you know I
yeah. I mean,
I think I was wrong, and I think the media has been wrong on him.
yeah, I'd agree, right? Especially with the season, the way that both have played. I think it definitely helps. With them being still young quarterbacks, the amount of weapons that both teams have done to get them, so that they could make it easier on themselves. I think the Eagles did a great job, right, with signing or trading for AJ Brown. Obviously, drafting Devonta Smith. Um, you know, I think those two guys have really helped him. And it helps having a
Yeah.
great tight end in Dallas
Oh
Goddard.
yeah.
Who's done great jobs there, and also, I think it's part of that running game there in Philly has progressed, well,
Yeah.
at least
Miles
this
was
this
okay.
early season. Yeah, but
Yep.
I think he's done already better. And I know
Yeah.
he was
Then last year.
injured last year and stuff like that. Um, I think just this offense is really clicking, and it really helps having those weapons. Same thing with Tua, right? Having somebody like Tyreek Hill who's going to spread defenses thin, and then you have somebody like Jalen Waddle that you can throw to, or Mike
Takes the
Gesicki,
top off
or
defenses.
yeah. It
Yeah.
helps so much. Um, so I give a lot of credit to those GMs and coaches for bringing in guys that help these young quarterbacks who are still learning, who are still trying to figure out their game, get better. Um, you know, I think a lot of it has to do with the pieces that have been brought in. I'm not saying that Tua and Jalen haven't obviously grown and progressed, but I
Yeah.
think it helps when you have those pieces. So
Yeah, I mean, through 3 games, he has 12 rushing attempts per game, 4.5 yard average. So his running game has been just as good as it has in the past. The 3 touchdowns, like I said, but his awareness in the pocket's been better. He's already, through 3 games, he has 900 yards. 15 games last year at 3,000. So you're looking at a tremendous increase. His completion percentage got better. His average yards per attempt has grown, and he really is. His ratings are and his QBR has all jumped, and he's become a better quarterback. And yeah, I just like you said, he has talent around him, and that helps. Having
yeah,
a number one receiver in both Jalen Waddle, sorry, in Devonta Smith, and AJ Brown. That is only going to help you, but he's kind of turned that page, and that's good to see. Um, all right, so the rest of the games, I know you were watching too, but Carolina and New Orleans is all junk. The big shocker to me, and maybe it wasn't a shocker in that I knew that Justin Herbert being hurt, that could really take this team back a little bit. Maybe it's be a tighter game, but Jacksonville, 38 to
yeah,
10 over the Chargers. They just smacked them around all up and down the field, offense, defense, and like I said, Justin Herbert's hurt, but James Robinson another 100-yard game. Uh, you know, another quarterback that we haven't really talked about, but Trevor Lawrence has played extremely well his first 3 games, and I know that
yeah,
that I shouldn't say the first 3 games, the first say 2.5 games he's played really good. You look at that first game that Jacksonville had, he looked like he was kind of a deer in headlights for the first half, and then he kind of turns it on. But Trevor Lawrence has been extremely good, and Jacksonville, that team, they have some weapons around him with Christian Kirk and Zay Jones and James Robinson, and they're not even using Travis Etienne,
yeah.
pretty
It's crazy.
impressive. So props up to Jared and the Jaguars fans. They got to be really happy right now. This quarterback's taking a turn, and they're leading the division, which I would not have said that in the beginning of the year.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's crazy to think that, right? That they would be leading this division. Everybody thought, obviously it'd be Tennessee or Indy. With these two, with Jacksonville and the Texans, kind of running at the bottoms. But I mean, I think Christian Kirk through the first 3 games has played amazing. He's being
Yep,
paid as the number one wide receiver there. You force feed him the ball as much as you can, which I think they've done well.
yep,
Getting him touches. I know you didn't think that he was a number one
no,
type wide receiver, and even I didn't think it either.
still don't
Uh,
think he is, but they're
um,
do using him
but I
well.
mean, yeah, yeah, and it's scary to think that once they get Etienne, into the mix more, using him maybe more as a
Yeah,
wide receiver or something, right? Getting more involved in the game, how much more effective this offense can be. Um, it's nice seeing Lawrence, kind of find his game after especially last year and just the terrible woes that they had. So it's nice to see the little mix up, in the division. And I mean,
yep.
I think LA, has to have a healthy Justin Herbert. Also Keenan Allen not having him, that hurts a lot too. So, uh, I mean, I'm not gonna push the panic button on the Chargers, but I think they just need
This
to get
injury is
healthy.
bad. Yeah.
Yeah,
Herbert being with his bruised ribs. Well, it's not bruised ribs, bruised, ripped cartilage or something. But,
something. Yeah,
um, you got to be worried. He can't hurt himself, but it can just be painful. And, maybe they do have to sit him for a couple games. They were talking about that last week. Maybe they sit him, have
yep,
Chase Daniel come in. Maybe that's the best bet. I don't know. Uh, Cardinals losing to the Rams. You had Atlanta beating Seattle. The old man game, Green Bay, Tampa. Rodgers gets the win, 14-12 over Brady,
yeah,
and Russell Gage with I think 14 catches from Tom Brady for 87 yards, and that's all they could do. Tampa could
yeah.
not move the football. It wasn't until the last drive that you actually see it happening. Green Bay. Romeo Dobbs looked pretty good. Maybe that's something to really watch. Coming out
This guy.
of
Yeah,
this past week. Yeah, he is a guy. Aaron Rodgers just in clutch, he can get things done. And he didn't have a great game either. He just
no,
it was good enough to beat. And both defenses played fantastic. Let's not sugarcoat that at all. Those defenses
yeah,
are top notch. Tampa's is ridiculous. And after those first two drives where Rodgers leads them both to touchdowns, they shut him down the whole rest of the game. And that defense for Tampa is legit. And Green
yep,
Bay is no slouch either. They're really good. They have one of the best corners in the league who got hurt, but we'll see if he comes back or how he's doing. But their defense is crazy good. And these two teams, if they can get the weapons coming back, obviously Tampa, Mike Evans will come back from the suspension.
yeah,
It looks like possibly Godwin's back this week. Same thing with Julio Jones, and that could only help a team that needs
yep.
weapons around Brady for him to worry about that. And I would not be surprised if Brady gives his old pal Gronk a call, like, "Hey, I need you. One last
See,
ride. Let's do it. Put down the bong. Let's go and have some
let's
fun."
uh, let's ride. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I
let's
think
ride.
that was the game changer though. With this game, not having Mike Evans, not having Godwin
Yeah,
or Jones. I mean, those are
because I
your
think they
three
would have
top
won.
receivers. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, um, yeah. I mean, I know Green Bay is 2-1. They still scare me. I just don't think that the weapons, right? Hopefully Romeo
Yeah,
Dobbs, has that connection with him. I know Tunyon, has had a
yeah,
connection
Big Bob.
with Rogers. Not as much on the stat sheet, with only around like 40 yards catching, but um, yeah, I still think they need a game changer, and whether that's going to be utilizing their running backs even more, and Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon. I think that's kind of what they have to do is mimic off of that San
Here's
Fran, style.
here's a question for you: is there any wide receivers that you could see available that Green Bay could try to trade for? Is there any number ones that are out there on dog crap teams that could possibly
I mean,
be gettable? Houston,
I know of a
Brandon
guy
Cooks.
that's a free agent, right now. If you want to take a
Well,
flyer on,
yeah. I mean,
I mean, he's somebody that he's had injuries, but OBJ, is a guy that I think that
they could
could
use him.
help could help. So that's somebody. Yeah, I mean, I think Cooks could be one. If I'm a team that I know right away that I'm not going to be in the mix, why not try to get something from Green Bay
Maybe a
with
New
picks or something.
England. I don't know. I'm trying to think of like Washington. They're not going to trade their guys. New Orleans. They're kind of in it with that division. Carolina, DJ Moore. I don't know what his contract status is. Maybe that's an interesting one. There's a guy sitting in Las Vegas that they could sure use in Devonta
Yep.
Adams, but I don't think they're going
Yep.
to go back to that well. Yeah, just a little interesting thought. Maybe we could look into the trade deadline and see who's available. Lastly, that Sunday slate, the night game, Denver. They went 11-10 on Jimmy Garoppolo stepping out of the back of the end zone. Uh,
It's fantastic.
it's great, and Dan Orlovsky right away was like, finally. But Dan, you ran out of bounds for like
Ran.
50
Yeah.
feet, before it, and you didn't even have any idea. Like he just barely
Yeah.
stepped on the line and got nailed. But Denver is just, and this is why your guys have to play in preseason games. You can get that kind of
Yeah.
offensive rhythm, and they sat Russ. They didn't play him at all on a new system, come to a new team, new weapons. You can't tell me that practice is where you're going to get these guys running. And
Yep.
you have two high end wide receivers in Cortland Sutton and Jerry Judy, and there's just no chemistry between these three, and that can't be. I just you know Hackett's got a lot to get going on with this team for them to be a true contender, which I think they can be. And San Fran, Jimmy coming back, and he had a decent game. Um, he's going to get used to the weapons again, and he was kind of they did pretty much everything in that game to show how much he was out of the door. They didn't have a playbook for him. Then he
Yep.
finally they're like, okay, you can come back. And then you had the botch trade with the Commanders, and that whole thing came out. It's just San Fran. I think they'll be there at the end, but they're going to have a little bit of soul searching to do in this next couple games. And then
Yeah.
lastly, go ahead, buddy. Sorry.
No, say I love how Jimmy Garoppolo's contract's structured, right? For every win, he gets a
Yeah.
massive payout or something like that. So,
Yep.
I mean, obviously, every quarterback here wants to win, and I'm sure for him it's a
He definitely
redemption
wants him.
and all that. So, but yeah, I mean, Denver, they're 2-1, but I don't understand how that offense is the way it is right now. It's
Yeah.
awful. And like you said, preseason, right? I get the risk aversion of some teams that some teams have, but you saw what Buffalo did, right? They played all preseason. Josh Allen, all their starters played, for a few drives, each game, and they're rolling. So I understand that there's risk, there, but I mean, you have to have a fast start. I feel like in the NFL,
Yep.
with games and stuff like that. So they found a way to win, but we'll see if this offense still struggles or if they can right that ship. Because Cortland Sutton, Jerry Judy, those guys, should be dominating. With Russell Wilson passing the ball and the running game that they have, and Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon. I mean,
Yep.
this is a scary team, and this defense is playing great too. So,
Yeah.
um,
They won the game.
I, they just need more. They need more from this offense.
Yeah. All right, quickly Jets, and then we'll go to the Giants. Jets losing 27-12 to Bengals. I knew this was coming. I knew that you were going to have a very unhappy Joe Burrow, and
Yep.
he comes in and he blitzkriegs him 3 TDs. Joe Flacco turned into a pumpkin again. Samaje Perine comes in for a very underwhelming Joe Mixon, and he does pretty well. Michael Carter was same thing with so many plays by Brees Hall missing easy catches, and that just can't happen. Tyler Boyd with the
Yep.
touchdown where he gets sandwiched, miraculously runs away from the two guys, and I don't know, man. I knew this was going to happen, and Zerline was the only bright spot. Right, he had 4 field goals,
Yep.
2 of them were 50 yards. you know, I don't even know what to say about the team. I knew that Flacco was going to kind of take this. He has 2 games with over 50 attempts already. He has
It's crazy.
over 150 attempts on the season. There's no way that Joe Flacco should lead the league in attempts, but he does. And just everything did not spell good for that game. Guys getting hurt. We have no offensive line, no offensive tackles. Fans hurt. We're in deep caca when it comes to linemen. And now you're going to bring back possibly, I'm pretty sure he's going to play, but you're going to bring
Yep.
back, Wilson, who is coming off injury, and you're going to have him running around for
Knee
his
injury
life
too,
because you can't
which is even
protect
worse.
him. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm really nervous.
it's not ideal at all. Not an ideal situation. I mean, maybe the one of the bright spots that I have is Tyler Conklin's playing well. He has the
Yeah.
past couple of games. We have a good tight end. I mean the defense.
Although,
Yeah, as I say, the defense I think laid an egg. Just like the offense did.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
this was a throwaway game against a team that I
yeah,
thought they could beat going into it. I know obviously starting 0-3, wait, the Bengals, that potential was there, and Definitely ammunition because 0-3 teams, stats behind of them making the playoffs or whatever. But I mean, this early schedule for the Jets, right, are tough games, and they're gonna try to find wins here and there if they want to have an attempt to make the playoffs. So yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah,
gonna be interesting to see what happens with if Wilson comes back. All signs point that he will be, and we'll see if he can do something with his legs where Flacco can, and muster some life in this offense.
yep.
Yeah,
Uh, and then you look at the Giants. On the other hand, their offensive line also couldn't stop, a ferocious pass rush by the Dallas Cowboys. Um, that team. This is going to be what they're going to have to do. They're going to have to kind of bide their time, and protect just quick enough for Daniel Jones to get the ball out of his hands. But this is what they are, right? They need some help.
yep,
Neal does not have a good game. He even said he played like pretty much ass. Um, Speaking of playing like ass, and I'm pretty sure that he said this at his press conference. Uh, Justin Fields, I think he has. I got to take a look exactly what, but they're averaging like 12 passes a game. It is bonkers how bad this team, the Chicago Bears team, is.
yeah,
Um, yeah, he's got 45 attempts through 3 games. He averages 15 attempts throwing per game. You know that
it's
most
bad.
most teams. Joe Flacco had 45 attempts in his first game.
Yeah,
That's
it's bad.
insane.
Yeah, I
I
mean
just
this, and that's another team that's surprising, right? 2-1,
yeah.
competitors in that division right now.
While being
It's
terrible at quarterback.
yeah, and
Yeah,
I haven't watched as much of the Bears play, so you know
it's been their
I
defense.
want
It's been Roquan
I,
Smith and nothing else.
but I'm saying on those calls, right? I wonder how much of those are designed, passing plays or RPOs, whatever, and that's Fields, trying to run the ball or hand off the ball as compared to throwing it.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean,
I mean,
the first game obviously with the tornado or the monsoon that they
yeah,
had there,
which makes
that game
sense.
versus the Niners, and then
Yeah,
at the Packers in Green Bay where Green Bay's defense just kind of stifled them, and then the Texans there's the Niners and Packers are both good competition, and the only reason
yeah,
they beat the Niners was because of that field. I don't know.
yeah. I mean, Herbert had himself a day, obviously, with
Yeah,
the 2 touchdowns,
150 plus yards.
157
Yeah,
yards. So I guess when that's rolling, you stick with it. But yeah, I mean that's an offense that you need to get the passing game going. I mean this is what this
yep,
league I feel like is built on. Passing the
yeah.
ball. Um, so yeah, I mean that's something that they got to figure out.
All right, so quickly, week ahead, we'll just do a little synopsis. We're going to make this short show. Thursday night tomorrow, Miami, Cincinnati. I I think this is probably the game of the week, considering that you have two teams that are fighting for division leads. Miami's undefeated. Cincinnati, Burrow. Burrow's not fighting for the division lead, but just a good team that you expect to be fighting for the division lead.
Yep.
Uh, I think I'm going to call Miami. This is their first loss. I think Joe's going to get them hot and rolling, and I think T. Higgins is going to have a big game. I think Mixon's going to have a big game because he hasn't really had one yet, and I think they're going to be able to control Miami's offense. Their D-backs, as long as they can keep Tyreek Hill and Waddle in front of them, I think they get the win here.
Yeah, I would agree. I think Burrow leads them again. I think obviously the Dolphins should have lost last week
Yep.
against the Bills, and I also think, I mean, not to put it lightly, but the hurricane that's happening right now in Florida and all that stuff, players, having to worry about things down
Yeah.
there and stuff like that. That's real life situation kind of coming in, so I think that can be a distraction, when it comes to football,
Yep.
for those players. So, I
And
think the Bengals take it.
yeah, and you did talk about quickly the hurricane down there. I believe I saw that Minneapolis is probably going to host the Chiefs Bucks, which are most likely going to relocate. So that game will be played in Minneapolis, who obviously is in New Orleans. Any other games, AJ, that stand out to you? that you look at and you're like,
No,
oh, that's a
I mean,
pretty interesting game?
I think another good game is going to be that Bills Ravens game at 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
You have two powerhouse quarterbacks, and Lamar Jackson, who looks like he could be the MVP now this year. Josh Allen, that's right there with him. Both competing. Both teams that are playing well. I think that's a really good game to watch.
Yep.
Like you mentioned, I think Chiefs Bucks is another good game to watch on
I
that
was to
Sunday
say,
night.
yep. Brady
Um,
versus Mahomes. Yeah.
and then I think an interesting game, not necessarily just the way that both teams are playing right now. I think
Let's see if we're on the wavelength. Okay.
Broncos Raiders. I thought is a sneaky game to watch just because I don't know what's happening down in Vegas, and you see if the Broncos could potentially make something happen.
I'll give you my sneaky one. Jaguars
Jaguars Eagles.
Philly. Jaguars
Yeah.
Eagles. Yeah, both teams leading their division. Both quarterbacks playing well. We'll see if the Jaguars are indeed legit. They may, even if it's just competitive, it goes a long way to your team
Yep.
and your fan base saying, hey, we can battle the big guns. And right
Yeah.
now, Philly's one of those big guns. And then finally, that Monday matchup, Rams and the 49ers. We'll see if Jimmy G can get his Niners back on track against the Super Bowl champions.
Yep.
You got anything else you want to talk about before we head out?
No, I got a trivia question though here for you.
All right, let's do this trivia.
All right, um, so Nick Chubb obviously continued his amazing play. Rushed for 113 yards in the 29-17 win over the Steelers on Thursday Night Football. It was
Yep.
Chubb's 24th career game with 100 or more rushing yards. So Chubb trails only Hall of Famer Jim Brown for the most 100-yard games in a player's first 5 seasons in Brown's team history. Who did Chubb just pass, by having his 100th or more yard rushing game, who previously had that in his first 5 seasons?
Overall or in Browns history?
Overall.
So most 100-yard rushing in the first 5 years of their career. Is it someone I've seen?
It's somebody that's still playing.
Still playing.
Still playing.
Is it McCaffrey?
Derrick Henry.
See, I thought he had stayed. Well, it makes sense. I thought he was just later on in his career, but yeah, I mean, he's a beast, so it makes all the sense in the world. Yeah, I mean, we'll be here next week. We're going to, I think, get back to our Tuesday slate. We've obviously been dealing with weddings and, some other fun stuff, but, we're excited. Football week 4, and it's going to keep flying after this, but, thanks everybody for tuning in, and we'll be back next week. AJ, got anything?
No. Let's go for some exciting games on Thursday.
Yeah, Jets
Sunday.
stink. This is football primetime.